All right, let's get into it. 2016, the year the NFL was at its absolute peak, and we didn't even realize it. February 5th, 2017, NRG Stadium in Houston. The scoreboard reads 28-3. The Atlanta Falcons are about 17 minutes away from winning their first Super Bowl. The Patriots dynasty looks like it's finally finished. Except none of that happens. After 2 years of appeals, courtroom battles, and endless controversy, Deflategate finally catches up to Tom Brady. The NFL suspends him for the first 4 games of the 2016 season. No exceptions, no delays. The greatest quarterback of his generation has to sit and watch. The Patriots go 3-1 with Jimmy G and Jacoby Brissett running the offense. Respectable, but the league assumes New England is vulnerable. Teams start circling. This is the year the AFC opens up. The Patriots won't go 14-2. They won't dominate like they always do. Week 5 arrives, Brady returns against the Browns. The crowd is electric, the anticipation is suffocating. And then Brady reminds everyone why he's Tom Brady. 406 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, the Patriots win 33-13, and it's not even close. The tape shows a different quarterback than the one who left in January. Faster decisions, quicker release, sharper reads. This isn't just a comeback, this is rage football. Brady doesn't just play well, he plays angry. Every snap feels personal. Every completion feels like a middle finger to Roger Goodell. The Patriots rattle off 7 straight wins to close the regular season. They finish 14-2. Best record in the AFC, Brady throws 28 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. His passer rating is 112.2. His TD to interception ratio is the best of his career, and the suspension that was supposed to humble him instead created a monster. Brady isn't playing to win games anymore, he's playing to prove a point. The point is simple. You can take away 4 games, but you can't take away the throne. The Patriots steamroll through the AFC playoffs. They beat the Texans 34-16 in the divisional round. They destroy the Steelers 36-17 in the AFC Championship. Brady throws 384 yards and 3 touchdowns against Pittsburgh. The defense is dominating. The offense is unstoppable. Everything is clicking. And then they head to Houston for the Super Bowl. The revenge tour has one final chapter, but before we get there, the rest of the league was going through its own transformation, because while Brady was reminding everyone he still owned the AFC, the NFC was about to get flipped upside down by 2 rookies no one saw coming. The Cowboys entered the 2016 draft with a plan. They had the 4th overall pick, and conventional wisdom said to take a quarterback, Jared Goff or Carson Wentz. They could have potentially traded up for, since Tony Romo was getting up there in age, but Jerry Jones had other ideas. With the 4th pick, Dallas selected Ezekiel Elliott, a running back out of Ohio State. The pick did make sense. The Cowboys had one of the best offensive lines in football, and they needed someone to run behind it. Elliott was that guy, physical, explosive, capable of carrying 25 times a game without breaking down. But they still needed a backup QB. Tony Romo was 36 and injury prone. The Cowboys couldn't go into the season with just Romo and a prayer. So in the 4th round, 135th overall, they took Dak Prescott out of Mississippi State. A developmental project, a guy who might be ready in 2 to 3 years. But then the preseason happens. Romo takes a hit in the 3rd game against Seattle, a compression fracture in his back, out indefinitely, and suddenly, the developmental project is the starting QB for America's team. Week 1, Dak makes his first start against the Giants. He goes 25 for 45, throws 227 yards, and the Cowboys lose 20-19. Nothing spectacular, just a rookie managing the game. But then the chemistry with Zeke clicks. The offensive line, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin creates holes you could drive a truck through. Zeke averages 5.1 yards per carry. Dak just hands the ball off to him and tries not to screw it up. And when he does throw, he's efficient. The Cowboys win again, and then again, and then again. By week 11, Dallas is 9-1. Dak has thrown 17 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. Zeke is leading the league in rushing with over 1,000 yards, and the offense is a machine. The defense is solid enough, and suddenly the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC. They finish the season 13-3, locked up the 1 seed, and Dak ends the year with 3,667 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. His passer rating is 104.9, 4th in the league, and Zeke finishes with 1,631 rushing yards, leading the NFL, and also having 15 touchdowns. Romo never starts another game in the NFL again, and his career ends on the sideline watching a 4th-round rookie take his job and his team to the playoffs, and he's been terrorizing NFL fans from the broadcast booth ever since. The Cowboys had accidentally stumbled into their franchise QB. A guy who wasn't supposed to play until 2018 is now leading the best offense in the NFC, and the running back they took at 4 is rewriting the record books. This wasn't supposed to happen, because rookies don't typically do this, but Dak and Zeke weren't normal rookies. They were the beginning of a shift, a league-wide realization that youth and talent could beat experience and pedigree. The Cowboys weren't the only team betting on rookies, because the 2016 draft class was stacked, and the real stars weren't just in Dallas. The 2016 NFL draft class was supposed to be about 2 quarterbacks. Jared Goff went 1st overall to the Rams, and Carson Wentz went 2nd to the Eagles. The Eagles had traded up, mortgaging their future, but both teams were convinced they had found their franchise savior. Goff sat until week 11, and when he played, he looked lost. 7 starts, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 63.6 passer rating. The Rams went 0-7 with him under center, and he just wasn't ready. Wentz started week 1 and looked like the real deal early. He threw for 3,782 yards and 16 touchdowns as a rookie. The Eagles went 7-9, but Wentz showed flashes. The problem was the second half of the season. He threw 14 interceptions and the offense fell apart down the stretch. Still, Philadelphia felt good about the pick, that they had their guy. But the real impact players from 2016 weren't the quarterbacks everyone expected. Joey Bosa went third to the Chargers, and he held out through training camp over contract disputes. He missed the first 4 seasons of the game and finally suited up in week 5 and immediately became the best defensive player on the field. 10.5 sacks as a rookie despite the late start, he was completely unblockable and won Defensive Rookie of the Year anyway. Jalen Ramsey went 5th to the Jags, instant lockdown corner, and he talked like he'd been in the league for the last 10 years. He played like it too. He had 14 pass breakups and 2 interceptions, but the real impact was what didn't show up in the stat sheet. Quarterbacks stopped throwing in his direction, and by mid-season, Ramsey was shutting down entire halves of the field. The Jaguars had finally had a defensive identity. Then you had the guys nobody saw coming. Tyreek Hill went in the 5th round, 165th overall, to the Chiefs, a return specialist who could also play receiver, except Hill wasn't just a gadget player. He was a game-breaking weapon. 12 total touchdowns as a rookie, 6 receiving, 3 rushing, and 3 on special teams. He averaged 10.1 yards per touch, and the Chiefs had found their cheat code. Michael Thomas went in the 2nd round, 47th overall, to the Saints, immediate wide receiver 1. 92 catches for 1,137 yards and 9 touchdowns. He wasn't the fastest or the flashiest, but he always was open. Drew Brees had a new safety blanket, and the Saints offense was back. Derrick Henry, Hunter Henry, Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, the depth of this draft class was ridiculous. This wasn't just a good draft, this was a generational talent infusion that shifted the entire league toward youth and speed. The old guard was still hanging on, but the future had arrived early, and it wasn't waiting for permission. While rookies were taking over and dynasties were evolving, the 2016 MVP race became a 4-way battle. 4 quarterbacks at different stages of their career, all playing at historic levels. Matt Ryan was having the best season of his life. The Falcons' offense under Kyle Shanahan was unstoppable. Ryan finished with 4,944 yards and 38 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions. His passer rating was 117.1, the 4th highest single-season mark in NFL history at that time. He led the league in yards per attempt at 9.3, completion percentage at almost 70%, and touchdown percentage at 7.1%. The numbers were absurd. Ryan wasn't just good, he was surgical. Every throw felt calculated, every read felt instant, and Julio Jones was drawing double teams, and Ryan was picking apart defenses with Devonta Freeman, Mohamed Sanu, and Taylor Gabriel. The Falcons scored 540 points, 2nd in the league, and they went 11-5 and locked up the 2 seed in the NFC. This was peak Matt Ryan, and the Falcons looked like the most dangerous offense in football. But Tom Brady had built a case on narrative. He came back from suspension, went 11-1 as a starter, and reminded everyone he was still the standard. 28 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, a 112.2 passer rating. He didn't play 4 games and still finished 2nd in MVP voting. Even at 39 years old, he was still the best quarterback in football when it mattered. Then there was Aaron Rodgers, who had one of the most dramatic arcs of anyone. The Packers were 4-5, the offense was stagnant, the defense was mediocre at best. Green Bay looked finished, Rodgers was frustrated, the team was struggling, and the season felt lost. Then, after a Week 10 loss to the Titans, Rodgers walked into a press conference and said 6 words that would define the rest of the year. I think we can run the table. It sounded insane. They had to play the Seahawks, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions to finish the season. The schedule wasn't easy, and the odds weren't good. But then Rodgers actually did it. He threw 15 touchdowns and 0 interceptions over those final 7 weeks. He completed 65% of his passes and averaged 8.9 yards per attempt. The offense went from stagnant to unstoppable. Green Bay finished 10-6 and snuck into the playoffs as a wild card. And lastly is Derek Carr, the forgotten season of Derek Carr. He was in his 3rd season now, looking to take the next leap. He started off the season hot with 319 passing yards and a touchdown, winning on a game-winning drive. He had 3,937 yards and 28 touchdowns, only throwing 6 interceptions when he snapped his leg in Week 16 against the Colts. There went the MVP campaign and the Raiders' chance at their first playoff win since the early 2000s. The MVP eventually went to Matt Ryan, but the 4-way race showed that the league had multiple great QBs at their absolute peak. All 4 could have made deep playoff runs, but only one would finish the season holding a Lombardi trophy. The Giants finished the 2016 regular season 11-5. They made the playoffs as a wild card. The defense was elite, top 2 in points allowed, anchored by Landon Collins, who had 5 interceptions and 4 sacks from the safety position. The secondary was locked down. The pass rush was getting home. Defensively, New York looked built for a playoff run. Offensively, they had weapons. Odell Beckham Jr. was a superstar, 101 catches, 1,367 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Sterling Shepard was a reliable slot receiver. Victor Cruz was still contributing, and Eli Manning was Eli Manning. Inconsistent, but capable of getting hot at the right time. The Giants weren't explosive, but they were good enough. Week 17 arrives, the Giants rest their starters, already locked into their seeding. The playoffs start the following week. They'll face the Packers in the wildcard round. It's a tough matchup, but the Giants feel confident. Their defense can slow down Rodgers, their offense just needs to be efficient. Then the photos drop. January 1st, 2017, the day before the wildcard game. OBJ, Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, and several other Giants players are spotted on a boat in Miami. The optics are terrible, the internet explodes, and the media loses its mind. Why aren't they locked in? Why does it look like they're on vacation instead of prepping for the biggest game of the season? Then the wildcard game actually happens. Giants lose to the Packers 38-13. It's not competitive. Odell has 4 catches for 28 yards. The offense is lifeless. The defense gets shredded. Rodgers throws for 362 yards and 4 touchdowns, including a Hail Mary. The Giants looked unprepared, unfocused, and overmatched. The boat trip becomes the story. Did they lose focus? Did the party cost them the game? The narrative sticks. The Giants have won just 1 playoff game since. Odell never recaptured the magic in New York. The team spirals, the defense ages out, the offense stagnates, and by 2019, OBJ is traded to Cleveland. The Giants enter a rebuild for seemingly the next decade, and it all ended on a boat in Miami. The Seattle Seahawks entered 2016 still believing they were elite. They had every reason to. The Legion of Boom was still intact. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and the rest of the secondary that had terrorized offenses for 4 years. The defense that had won a Super Bowl in 2013 and nearly repeated in 2014 was still on the field. But the cracks were showing. The Seahawks finished 10-5-1. They made the playoffs as a wild card, and on paper they looked competitive. But anyone watching the tape could see the decline. Earl Thomas was still elite. He could still cover the entire back half of the field by himself. His range and instincts hadn't diminished. But Cam Chancellor was battling injuries. His physicality was still there, but the explosiveness was fading. He missed games, and he wasn't the same enforcer in the box. Richard Sherman was 28 years old and still great, but the secondary as a unit wasn't shutting down passing attacks like they used to. QBs weren't afraid to throw in Sherman's direction anymore. They tested him, and sometimes they won. The aura was completely gone. But the biggest problem was the offense. Russell Wilson was getting destroyed. The offensive line was a disaster, worse in the league by most metrics. Wilson was the most hit quarterback in football. He was scrambling for his life on every dropback. Still, he made some magic happen. He threw for 21 touchdowns and rushed for another, but he was doing it despite the offense, not because of it. The Seahawks were surviving on Wilson's legs and the defense making just enough stops. Then the divisional round hit. Seahawks travel to Atlanta to face the Falcons. The game isn't close. Atlanta wins 36-20. Matt Ryan throws for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Falcons' offense is just too fast, too explosive, and too efficient. The loss exposes the truth. The Seahawks aren't contenders anymore. 2017 brings more injuries. 2018 sees the core break up. Earl Thomas breaks his leg and flips off the sideline as he's carted off. Sherman tears his Achilles and leaves on free agency. Cam Chancellor's career ends due to a neck injury, and the Legion of Boom era officially ends. The Seahawks entered a rebuild that's finally over now with Mike Macdonald. The Legion of Boom became a memory, and 2016 was the last year they looked like contenders. All that being said, the 2016 playoffs were pure chaos. The Giants got boat raced by the Packers, the Seahawks got run over by the Falcons, the Cowboys and Packers played an all-time classic, Rodgers to Cook, Crosby's field goal, Dak's comeback, but the Packers eventually won. The Patriots rolled through the AFC. They beat the Texans and the Steelers. The Falcons smoked the Packers in the NFC Championship game. Matt Ryan was absolutely flawless. Then it all came down to the Super Bowl, the most talked about game in NFL history. And now right back where it all started. NRG Stadium in Houston, February 5th, 2017. Atlanta jumps out to a 14-0 lead in the second quarter. Matt Ryan is surgical. The offense is unstoppable. Devonta Freeman is gassing the Patriots defense. Everything Kyle Shanahan drawing up is working perfectly. Then, Atlanta extends the lead. Robert Alford picks off Brady and returns it for a touchdown, 21-0. Patriots do score before half, making it 21-3 Falcons. The Falcons then score first out of half, going up 28-3 with 8:31 left in the third quarter. The game is over. The Falcons are champions. Matt Ryan is about to be Super Bowl MVP. The Patriots dynasty looks finished. No team has ever come back from more than 10 points in Super Bowl history. Except Brady doesn't care about history. Patriots convert, and now it's 28-28. And now, they're going to overtime. Patriots win the coin toss. They drive 75 yards. James White punches it in from 2 yards out. Final score 34-28 Patriots. The greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. The Falcons blew a 25-point lead. 28-3 becomes a meme, a punchline, a permanent scar on Atlanta sports. The Patriots cement their dynasty. Brady wins his 5th ring. Belichick proves he's the greatest coach ever, while Tom shows why he's the GOAT. 2016 ends with the most improbable finish imaginable. It was a year everything shifted. Rookies took over, legends made final stands, dynasties were born and broken. The boat trip cursed the franchise, Rodgers ran the table, and Brady proved he was inevitable. And so there you have it. We took the golden age of the NFL for granted. Subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.